listeners. Welcome to our show. Look at that thing. I should Google that and see what's up with that. Also known as Thingamajigs.
That is a really long name.
Yeah, well, every first letter of the word spells out the word Thingamajigs, so it worked out really well.
I didn't track that whole title, but I don't think that that's true.
Don't go looking into it, but it's a big deal.
Yes, welcome to Thingamajigs.
Hey, that's a really nice dress you're wearing.
It's a robe.
Does it have any pockets?
It sure does have pockets. It has pockets on either side.
That's cool. I was wondering what those things were. I don't know anything about them. What's their deal?
Pockets?
Yeah, tell me about these pockets. Am I saying that right?
Pockets.
Pocket.
Yes. What are you doing for your mother this weekend?
I think for Mother's Day, I'll purchase my dear mother a pocket.
Just one? Just one pocket? A pocket?
Well, do you need more than one? What are you going to put in there?
See you're the problem. You're the problem with pockets today.
Is that a problem? Is that a problem that exists?
Oh, it's a huge problem, but let's start at the beginning. It's hard to say when pockets were invented. One reason is because you would have to have a specific definition for quote-unquote pocket, but also because they were so ubiquitous, there is no one person who invented the pocket. So the oldest account of a pocket-like garment was found in 1991.
1991, that's not very old.
Well, that was when we found it, not when it existed.
Oh.
We found it in 1991. There was a 5,300-year-old man mummified in the Alps. This was about 3,300 BCE. He is known as the Iceman. I
know him.
You do?
Yeah, I've heard about him.
Oh, well.
Seen pictures. He's pretty handsome.
I don't think any mummy is
How dare you? That's a handsome man.
Okay,
Strong, sturdy. He's been in there for so long and he's still kicking. Well, not really, but, you know.
If he's kicking, then there's something more going on than just mummification.
Well, if Walt Disney can figure it out.
Now, let's keep in mind that this was a perfectly preserved and clothed specimen. A literal treasure trove of information about what it was like to live in the ancient world. But we're only going to discuss his pocket. It was a pouch that was sewn into his belt, and it had a scraper, a drill, a flint flake, a bone owl, and a bit of dried fungus.
A bone owl?
I can't say that word. A bone owl.
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 Yes, an A-W-L.
Owl.
It is a sharp tool that we still use today. Back then it was, I think, primarily used for putting holes in leather. They had to do a lot of leather work back then.
I find it interesting that you're fixated on the bone owl and just went right over the bit of dried fungus.
Yeah, I kind of didn't even notice that. What's that about?
I don't know. It's just what was in his pocket. I don't know why he had a bit of dried fungus. I don't know if he was about to have a good time or a bad time, depending.
I wonder if that was to light with his flint to start a fire.
Oh, like tinder?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Maybe.
But it was a piece of dried fungus.
We can only speculate now until we can figure out how to thaw him out. Him and Walt Disney will have a lot of questions.
Now, this topic is inevitably going to hit some sexist touchstones and inequality between men and women, so we should probably buckle in for that.
I'm buckling. Let me get my helmet. Oh, boy.
But the medieval period was a time when at least pouches or pockets were equal among the sexes.
The medieval period. What time range was that?
About 1060s to 1480s.
Cool.
Men and women had pouches that were usually made of leather or cloth that were tied to their belts. Whether the belt was made from rope or leather or string, but these pouches were tied and hung on the outside of their clothes, which is something that will change soon enough.
You know, it's kind of funny when you think of the medieval ages, you don't think of it as much of a progressive time, but look who had pockets.
I mean, people have been needing to carry things since we ran out of hands.
And so what? We don't need to carry things anymore? What's going on? Anyway.
Now, unlike a lot of things we have covered so far, pockets were not a classist item. Both the rich and the poor alike had a pouch or a pocket that carried needed items. Now, that what the pocket was made of did depend on how much money you had, but the ability to obtain one was not. Everyone had a, well, I'm not, okay, I can't say that everyone, but the majority of people's had pockets.
If you've got some spare cloth around, you can pretty much have a pocket.
Right. The next big thing for pockets was where they were placed. As society grew and people moved around more, security became a concern, which I know the plague in the 1350s had a lot to do with that. Such a large number of the population dying meant that there was more incentive to leave home villages, because George, who used to work in this field, died, and now the landowner needed someone to take George's place, so they would try to entice people from smaller villages to come and work for them.
George was a good man.
Rest in peace, George.
He will be missed.
Which caused people to move around more, and the influx of new people in town meant you had to be more cautious, because who knows what Edward is into.
He's a shady guy. You can't trust an Edward.
Oh, come on. There's lots of Edwards out there.
I can't trust any of them. Not that I've ever met one, but I don't trust them. If your name is Edward out there, I've got my eyes on you, okay? Don't try to pull any fast ones on me. I see you coming from a mile away.
I can't believe you're throwing shade at Edward. He survived the plague and is now working in this field. He's probably a fine guy.
Sounds like he didn't survive the plague so much as he just went and stole somebody's land because they did not survive the plague, but I guess it depends on how you look at it.
I think we need to quit speculating on Edward. Now, I am not saying that the plague had any real influence on pocket culture, but that was a major event that caused people to mix more, and boom, society grows, and now we have pockets on the inside of our garments.
Oh my goodness, pocket culture. That's what the Iceman had.
I don't get it.
He had fungus in his pocket. Pocket culture? Yeah, my nerds out there will get it, but then they'll also make fun of me for not using the correct terminology or whatever, so it balances out. Pocket culture. Moving on.
Okay. For men, this mostly meant tying their pouches up under their jackets or tunics, and for women, it meant tying on pockets that were under their dresses that you could access through slits in the fabric.
Sounds like a pocket.
That is not to say that the pockets were strictly worn under garments. Merchants or other professions that regularly needed access to their pockets for items or to exchange money would often wear them on the outside. But I have a feeling that the majority of these people were men, and you're less likely to target a man over someone weaker.
So they felt safer walking around at night.
Right. This did leave them open to more nefarious acts on the streets, where someone could get their hands in your pocket or cut the pocket off the wearer altogether. London archives have criminal court records from 1674 to 1913 with over 4,000 pages of records concerning pocket-related criminal activity. At this time, they were usually referred to as cut purses.
That's a good name.
I know. I thought I was trying to find anything about pickpockets, because I know that term, but it was more often called cut purses.
I'm surprised they kept all those records. It was a really common thing, and they still have those records.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can still go find those records.
That's great.
Now, I do want to quickly talk about women's tie-on pockets, which is a modern distinction. In their time, they were just pockets. We feel the need to distinguish tie-on because we don't have them anymore. But for them, it was just, I'm putting on my pockets.
Oh my goodness, is that where that stupid thing comes from? Where the boomer will walk up to you and he'll be like, your pocket fell off. Ha 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 ha, made you look.
I have never heard that before, but maybe.
Oh, that was such a big thing back in the day. I don't know. It's like one of those just stupid made you look things.
Oh, like you have a stain on your shirt?
Yeah.
Made you look? Or your shoes untied? Your
Yeah.
pocket fell off.
I thought they said it because it sounds so ridiculous, but also whenever you just walk up to somebody and be like, "Hey, your pocket fell off," it sounds like a thing that could happen for some reason. So you're compelled to look, and then you'd feel really stupid for looking. But back then, that's like, oh shoot, did my pocket fall off?
Yeah, pockets were a garment that you put on like socks. So these pockets were huge, and you could carry a book, writing materials, an apple, or some kind of like snack. And that's just one pocket. They usually had two, like one on each side.
That's nice. We need to bring that back.
And because the pockets were concealed under the dresses, there was a sense of privacy. Not only with the things that were inside that were only known to the wearer, but also in the decorative patterns on the pockets itself. There was a lot of pressure for women to adhere to specific fashion designs, but there was little confinement with what women could do with their pockets. They could have personal motifs or initials or more elaborate embroidered silk designs. They could have them plain. A lot of the time they were patchworked because hand-woven fabrics were very precious, and you used as much of every piece that you could.
I saw some pictures of the embroidered ones. They were pretty cool. They would be really fashionable if we brought those back.
We would have to wear more dresses. I don't know if you could bring them back. They're kind of their time.
You could probably sew them onto things. I don't know. The designs were really nice. You got to put them somewhere.
Now, in the 17th century, pockets began being sewn into men's garments, only men's, which I kind of understand because they were still rocking the pouch under the jacket or just out in the open, and honestly, women's tie-on pockets were pretty awesome. They were huge. Henry VIII, who ruled in the early 1500s, did have a pocket in his hose, which was those big, fluffy, kind of bulbous short pant things.
Hose, like you water the garden with. Yeah, I know that one.
No.
No?
No.
No.
You've seen pictures of the men with their bulbous pants, and they're usually very colorful and...
The puffy pants.
Yes,
oh,
yes.
Yeah. They're not called a hose, they're called puffy pants. Get your facts straight.
Men did not walk around saying, "Oh, I need my puffy pants."
They wore high heels and puffy pants, that's a fact.
They wore heeled shoes and hose.
Puffy pants.
But I'm not sure if he had that because he was the king and he could have his tailor do something special like that for him, or if it was more common in the wealthy circles. I'm not really sure. I just know that Henry VIII had pockets in his pant, like sewn into his pants, and that was pretty special for the time. Also, we need to cover women's pockets in the mid-18th century. There was a brief golden era for women's pockets. It had never been so good, and it will probably never be that good again. It was an amazing time. So women went through this period of time where the fashionable silhouette involved very wide hips. This opened a wide door for huge, huge pockets.
I saw pictures. They are shockingly massive.
They had hoop skirts that had built-in structure that lifted the skirts away from the body, leaving a very large space for pockets to be filled to their full capacity. Not only this, but they also had like small pockets at the tops of their dresses sewn into the stays, which is like a corset. And then they would put stomachers, which matched the dress in front of that, so when it was perfect for holding small personal effects. Now, granted, this was not an experience that all women shared. This was enjoyed mainly by the upper class, who would have worn something this especially impractical, because they were wide. There's pictures of women standing sideways to go through doorways.
Like those, go back and watch Cinderella and look at the dresses that the stepsisters wear.
I remember growing up thinking that they had massive butts. Because I was young, so through my young eyes, I was assuming that these dresses were like the ones that I wear. I thought that was just how their bodies were shaped.
These stepsisters are thick.
But Cinderella never had that. She always had the little dress, the little I think she wore like a brown dress with a white apron in front, and she was very petite.
Did the fairy godmother not make her super thick?
At the end, yes, she did get a fancy dress.
Nice. She got thick.
During this time, there are some sources that I can't really confirm, which say that during the French Revolution in the late 18th century, women's pockets were banned because they were seen as dangerously secretive, which I find incredibly sexist. Why are only women's pockets dangerously secretive? The idea that a woman's pocket is dangerous, but a man's is not, I don't really understand. We've always been mysterious creatures.
Yeah, have you seen women? Look in those eyes. You don't know what they're thinking. They're so mischievous.
I hate that trope. I hate that trope that men just have no idea what we're thinking. We're probably not thinking anything. We're not that mysterious. But they were reportedly worried that they would be used to carry secret messages. And again, no one seems certain that this is true, because simultaneously the fashion was trending towards slimmer dresses, which couldn't accommodate pockets. So who knows which one came first, whether it was banned and then we got slimmer dresses, or if we got slimmer dresses and we just didn't wear these pockets as often. By the 19th century, or the Regency period, women's fashion changed pretty dramatically to include a high waistline and very slim figure, which was not conducive for large pockets, which is when the reticule makes its debut.
The reticule?
The reticule. Do you know what a reticule is?
The reticle. Yeah, that's the thing in the middle of the screen when I play Halo that tells me where my bullets are gonna go.
No, not in this context. A reticule is like a little handbag. It was supposed to take the place of the pocket, and this is when women get angry. Before this, I believe we were pretty happy with our lot in pocket life. I found a newspaper clipping that included, or I should say, it acknowledged the frustration being experienced between women. And I have a quote here. "The reticule is not and never can be a fair representation of the substantial and capacious pockets which our ancestors wore. They were proper pockets, such as reticules never can be."
I like that. That's good. That's a good quote.
It was like from a little women's interest article.
Because, like, they were keeping sewing kits and tools and all kinds of stuff in those pockets. How are you going to put that in a little tiny handbag?
And women were very upset about this change. Now, again, it is probably important to mention these were upper class women's issues. You had to have money to buy the new fashions in order for this to affect you so personally, but it did mark the era of pocket inequality that women still face today. So we know that as fashion moves along, there is no exact date that everyone collectively decides to move from one style to the next, but we know that around the mid-19th century, the tie-on pocket is getting left behind. By 1870, there are written references and complaints about women's pockets. And I have another quote that says, "The feminine system of pockets is wretchedly meager and deficient and stands greatly in need of reform." So we've been complaining about our pocket situation since at least 1870.
That's great. In like 100 years, there's going to be another podcast, and they're going to be reading off tweets about how we need pockets and dresses.
Probably so, unless something changes. The title of that piece that I got that quote from is "A Plea for Pockets." Now, it should be stated that this was a complaint about the amount of pockets, not necessarily the size of pockets.
I'm impressed that they chose such a short name, considering the way things were usually named back then.
That is a good point.
It's quite
catchy. The shortest title that we've had so far.
It's a short, catchy title, straight to the point.
Now, that is not to say that the sewn-in pockets were all bad. They were undoubtedly more secure since they were sewn into the garment, but it also led to pockets being sewn into strange places, like the very back of the dress, or really anywhere that could hide under a ruffle.
Butt pockets. Don't let anybody pick your pocket.
The other issue with sewn-in pockets was that they had to be sewn into every garment, which was costly, and a lot of manufacturers considered it to be superfluous for women's clothing, because women don't need access to personal items. They should be home with all their things anyway, and if they should go outside, then they should be with a man who has pockets. That's not a quote of anything. That's just me being...
That's what they were all thinking, though. Terrible.
Now, it gets worse. Up until now, the pockets that we did have were at least sizable. We didn't have many, but the ones that we had were big enough to carry items. But as fashion progressively got slimmer, we stopped wearing bulky petticoats, and some of us wouldn't wear skirts at all as we get into the mid-20th century. Pocket size diminished in size.
It's when ladies started wearing pants.
Mm-hmm.
See what happens, ladies? We told you not to wear pants. Look what happened. Lost your pockets. You did it to yourselves.
We're going to talk about that later. We're going to get into women wearing pants. Just you wait. So we have talked about women's pockets, right? I do want to clarify, it's not to say that men haven't gone through plenty of fashion changes themselves. There was a period of fashion in the late 18th century, early 19th century, where men wore skin-tight breeches, and the pockets were very small. The difference is they were compensated on the upper body, with more pockets on the inside and outside of their coats and waistcoats.
That sounds just like 2005.
What happened in 2005?
Skinny jeans and big army jackets.
Oh, I do remember that.
Yeah.
Those army jackets were awesome. I think the biggest difference is, even though men's fashion changed, they weren't expected to purchase an external pocket or a handbag. They were given pockets in other places. I also want to mention there was this idea that it was an obscene gesture to have your hands in your trouser pockets, because that's where your genitals are, and heaven forbid anyone think about that disgusting appendage.
Ooh, what's Johnny doing in those pockets?
If you see a really old picture of a man thrusting his hands in his pockets, that was a vulgar statement. During the...
I'm touching my penis at you? Is that the statement?
I think it had more to do with masturbation. Like, you should never...
Hey, you don't like the way I drive? I'm jerking one off right now. Is that the statement?
No, I think the statement was just, let's not ever think or touch or bring up the idea of sexual organs in any way.
Well, that's good. I like that statement better than the one that I said.
During the suffragette movement, you will see some photos of women in pantsuits with their hands in their pockets, and that was most definitely a statement of self-ownership.
They were making all kinds of vulgar gestures.
Well, it was more showing we can do it too.
So like, look at me in my pockets and my pants with pockets. Nice.
Now let's talk about more modern pockets, the kind of pockets you and I experience every day. Let's get into some statistics. A normal pair of women's jeans, the pocket depth is barely 4 inches compared to men's pair of jeans at 8 inches. On average, men's pockets are 3 inches deeper than women's.
Yeah, 4 inches. That's bonkers.
Mm-hmm.
I can't fit my keys and phone and laptop in one pocket with that kind of depth.
This isn't even counting the horrific blasphemy of the fake pocket.
I feel so passionately about fake pockets. What is the point? Who are you trying to impress? That should be considered...
Fraudulent?
Yes, that should be considered fraudulent. It's you lure them in with your little flap or your little sliver there that looks like a pocket, but boom, you got nothing. You got nothing. That's a scam. What kind of racket are they running?
I think it's supposed to give balance to the garment without adding bulk to it. So you'll see the little flap on the top and it looks like a pocket, and it gives an idea of what is supposed to be there without adding padding to it.
That doesn't make any sense. What if we started putting fake doors on houses?
You know they do that. There's a lot of front doors on homes that are fake. You can't open them because most people don't use their front doors. It looks like a front door. It has a handle. It does not open.
Are you making that up?
No, I'm not making that up.
What timeline is this dystopian reality that we are living in?
I don't understand why you would go through the trouble of putting a door that you can't use.
It's the same thing with the pockets. What is the point? What are you doing?
Well, a lady by the name of Julie Siegel is the founder of the Pocket Project, and she has made it her mission to create work-friendly professional dresses that are also functional. She promises every dress you buy from her site will feature pockets that are at least 8.5 inches deep. And there's a little quote from her that says, because we've got things to do and snacks to carry.
That's great. I want to carry snacks in my pockets. Why am I never carrying snacks in my pockets?
Probably because I don't buy snacks.
Oh.
You can buy snacks.
I like snacks.
Also, it'd be pretty funny for you to pull out a bag of, cut up cucumber.
Just out of my pocket.
Just out of your pocket.
Or I leave the bag in there and people just watch me reach into my pocket and pull out food and stick it in my mouth. That's a power move. Or maybe the opposite of a power move. Either way, I like it.
Oh, those dresses are just under $200. So if you have the money, it's pretty neat. I saw her fit a whole bottle of wine in her pocket.
That's what I'm talking about.
The top was sticking out. You could tell that she had, obviously you could tell she had a bottle of wine in her pocket. But she could comfortably put a bottle of wine in her pocket and walk around and it was not going to fall out.
That's pretty rad.
You open that bottle of wine and stick a really long straw into it.
Ooh, yeah, like a big old crazy straw that wraps around your whole body.
Mm-hmm.
Love that.
That'd be pretty rad.
And you start manufacturing these straws, partner up with what's her name in her dresses?
Julie Siegel. There weren't very many to choose from. I know it's difficult having a small business, and I understand why she does charge so much for her dresses. So if you can support her, that would be great, but it's understandable. That is a lot of money for one simple dress.
Yeah. If you can, go support Julie. That's her name, right?
Mm-hmm.
And others like her who are running nice businesses like that. That's great. You can pretty much guarantee you're getting a quality product from somebody like that. So, public service announcement of the episode. Go buy some nice dresses with pockets and support a good business.
I have seen a little bit of a turn in women's fashion. I own several dresses that have pockets. I've never measured them, so I don't know how deep they are, but the simple fact that they have functional pockets is amazing. I once looked at a wedding dress that had pockets, and I seriously considered it, even though I didn't love the dress, but it had pockets, and that piqued my interest.
That one doesn't make sense to me. What do you need to keep in your pockets on your wedding day?
That's where you keep your lip gloss and your anti-anxiety medicine, because you're making such a huge decision.
Oh. Is there anything more joyous than the look of a woman who's excited about pockets on a dress? It's the best.
I do get very giddy whenever I have pockets. I will turn them out and say, "Look at my pockets!"
Well, that's a bit showy. You don't have to rub it in everybody's face.
I usually only do that to you. A man who has pockets in literally every garment that he buys.
Yeah, sorry, that was just my class anxiety squeaking out.
That's all I have on pockets. It should be stated that this podcast should be called I Googled It, and here is what I found. So if anybody out there, if any historians have any addendums or corrections to be made to what I've said, feel free to contact us in some way that we haven't really established yet, but we will.
We could start a whole segment on the episode where we correct everything we said wrong in the last episode. That would be fun.
We should absolutely do that if I say something wrong.
Well, thank you so much for listening to Thingamajigs. My name is Ben.
And I'm Danielle. Grab a goose.
Sun your goats.
Protect your genitals.
Reuse your bottles.
Don't drop your pockets. We probably missed one. This is getting out of hand. We need to stop.
Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you in the next one.
Nah.
Go! Forgive me, but